All right, fight fans, get ready. We're going deep on Jon Bones Jones today.
Oh, yeah. Jon Jones.
I think, even if you're not like a diehard MMA fan, you've heard the name, you know Bones, you know the guy.
Yeah,
But today we're going to go deeper than that, right?
absolutely.
What makes him so fascinating, so dominant, such an interesting figure in the sport?
I think what always gets me about Jon Jones is he's sort of more than just a fighter.
Right.
Like his story, his skill set, his dominance kind of captures people's imaginations.
Yeah. And we're talking like youngest UFC champion ever.
Yes.
Ruled the light heavyweight division for what felt like forever.
Mm-hmm.
And goes up to heavyweight, wins the title.
Yeah.
Just like surprises everybody. So we're going to unpack all of that,
Yeah.
from his early days to those championship wins.
When you look at his background, you can almost see the blueprint for a champion even before he sets foot in the octagon.
Right.
So, state champion wrestler in high school, and we're talking pin after pin after pin, goes on to win a national junior college championship.
Jeez.
And get this, his brothers are at the same time making waves in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
So this is a family built for athletic dominance.
Makes you wonder what was going on in that household,
Yeah.
right? Like the training regimen, the food they're eating.
Yeah, like what's the secret sauce going on in that family?
Exactly. But, I mean, how much would you say that wrestling background really shaped him and his fighting style?
Oh, it's absolutely fundamental to his success. MMA is a multifaceted sport,
Right?
but wrestling gives you that bedrock. It's about controlling your opponent.
Yeah.
It's about leverage. It's about dictating where the fight takes place. You see that in Jones's career over and over again.
Yeah.
He's not just reacting, he's dictating.
Mm-hmm.
And that wrestling background is also where the nickname Bones comes from.
Okay.
So back in his high school wrestling days, super lanky frame.
Right.
That's how he gets tagged with that.
Okay. So you've got this wrestler, prodigy, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes into MMA. But what I find interesting is he didn't have a ton of striking experience at the start.
No, not really.
So how does he, not only adapt, but thrive in this sport where, striking is such a crucial element?
I think that's where you see his, just freakish athleticism and adaptability come in.
Right.
So he takes that wrestling base.
Yeah.
And then he weaves in these really unorthodox striking techniques. So you got these spinning elbows from crazy angles. You've got these sudden trips that, leave his opponents bewildered.
Right.
And then that relentless ground and pound, which is just brutal to endure.
It's almost like a puzzle that's changing right in front of you.
Yes, absolutely. Fighting Jon Jones has got to feel like that.
And I'm picturing it, and it does not seem fun.
Yeah.
You mentioned those signature moves.
Yeah.
So the spinning elbows, the trips, the ground and pound.
Yep.
That those weren't just effective. They were visually, they were made for highlight reels. Almost like he was rewriting the book on how to fight.
Absolutely. And, he didn't really fit the mold of your traditional striker.
Right.
And that's what made him so difficult to prepare for.
Yeah.
And then that, on top of just raw talent, it translates into a meteoric rise in the UFC.
Yeah.
So he debuts at 21, goes on this undefeated streak, and boom, youngest UFC champion ever at the age of 23.
That's insane. I mean, that's not just luck.
No.
That's like raw talent mixed with genius level fight IQ.
Oh, yeah. He's the total package.
And think about who he was facing during this time. I mean, you got Quentin Rampage Jackson, you got Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, Daniel Cormier. I mean, these are some huge names.
Legends.
Yeah, these weren't just fights. These were clashes of titans.
Exactly.
And he came out on top, constantly.
And that's where that fight IQ really shines.
Yeah.
Every opponent is a different challenge, a different puzzle to solve. And Jon Jones was a master puzzle solver in the octagon.
Right.
It wasn't just athleticism. It was thinking steps ahead. It was analyzing weaknesses. It was finding openings that maybe his opponents didn't even know they had.
Yeah.
And then exploiting them with just incredible precision.
Okay, now I'm hooked. I need an example. Give me a fight from your research that really showcased this genius fight IQ that we're talking about.
All right, so his first fight against Alexander Gustafsson.
Okay.
So Gustafsson, tall, rangy striker,
Yeah.
reach advantage, posed a real problem for Jones's usual game plan. So what does Jones do? Closes the distance,
Oh, interesting.
uses his wrestling to take Gustafsson down, and controls him on the ground for much of the fight.
Wow.
Complete flip of the script. Uses Gustafsson's strength, his height, against him.
Yeah, that's some next-level chess match stuff right there.
Oh, absolutely.
And, even with these incredible victories, his career outside the octagon hasn't been completely smooth sailing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been a bumpy road.
So how did those moments, those times outside the octagon, how did they impact, his fighting? Did it make him like rethink his approach, or did he kind of just like brush it off?
Yeah, I mean, Jones's journey hasn't always been, smooth.
Right.
There have been incidents, controversies that threatened to derail his career.
Yeah.
But even with those setbacks, what's remarkable is his resilience.
Okay.
He faced challenges, personal and professional, but his dedication to the sport, I mean, it never wavered.
Wow.
He always came back to the octagon, ready to fight, proving time and again that he belonged at the top.
It's like he had something to prove.
It seems that way, yeah.
And then there's the heavyweight move. I mean, some people thought he was crazy for even trying it.
Oh, absolutely. It was a bold move, no doubt about it.
Yeah. But boy, did he prove them wrong. So what was it about that move that made people, like, doubt him in the first place?
I think people often underestimate his ability to adapt and evolve. And, he had been preparing for this for years. He put on the muscle, refined his technique. And you saw it, like, in his heavyweight debut against Cyril Gane.
Right.
And Gagarin, I mean, formidable opponent.
Oh, yeah.
Known for his striking power, agility.
But Jones just dismantled him.
Yeah.
First round guillotine choke, that's a statement win.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm here.
It was like he was announcing his arrival.
Yeah, to the heavyweight division. Like, I'm here to stay.
Exactly.
Don't even try me.
Yeah. This is my division now.
So Jon Jones, wrestler turned MMA legend, innovator who, like, redefined fighting styles, strategic mastermind, champion who constantly defies expectations. How do we even begin to unpack that?
It's a career full of layers, that's for sure. I think one of the things that makes Jon Jones so captivating, right, is his ability to adapt.
Yeah.
Not just between fights, but within a fight itself. Like, he wasn't just sticking to, like, a predetermined game plan. He was making adjustments, on the fly.
Right, reacting to his opponent.
Yeah, reacting to his opponent, exploiting those tiny openings that most fighters, I think, wouldn't even see.
That's what, like, separates the good from the great, right?
Yeah.
It's not just executing a strategy. It's having that improvisational element.
Exactly.
Being able to think on your feet, adapt as the fight unfolds. Like, you need that to stay ahead of the curve, especially when you're facing the best of the best.
Absolutely. And you see that time and time again in Jones's fights, right?
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't afraid to switch things up, to go from striking to grappling seamlessly, to use those, unorthodox techniques of his to just disrupt his opponent's rhythm.
Like, keep them guessing.
Yeah. It's like he was always one step ahead mentally.
Okay, so paint us a picture. Like, give us an example of Jones adapting his strategy mid-fight.
Right.
Something that really stands out from your research.
Okay, so his second fight against Daniel Cormier.
Okay, yeah.
So, in their first encounter, Jones relied heavily on his wrestling, controlling Cormier on the ground.
Right.
But in the rematch, he knew that Cormier would be prepared for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what did Jones do? He kept the fight standing, showcased his, vastly improved striking, and eventually finished Cormier with a head kick that nobody saw coming.
Wow.
It was a masterful display of adaptation, of knowing his opponent so well that he could predict and counter their adjustments.
Like, he almost, like, lured Cormier into a false sense of security, playing on the expectations from their first fight. Talk about a high-stakes mind game.
Yeah, it really was. And that's what made Jones such a dangerous opponent, right? He was constantly thinking, analyzing, calculating.
Yeah.
You could almost see the wheels turning in his head as she was fighting. Like, he was like a chess grandmaster in the octagon, always several moves ahead.
And you have to imagine, for his opponents, like, that must be so demoralizing.
Oh, absolutely.
You train for months, you study their tapes, you prepare for their signature moves, and then they pull something completely unexpected out of the bag.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to hit a moving target that can also teleport.
Exactly. And, you could see it in their faces sometimes.
Right.
They start strong, confident, and then as the fight wore on, that doubt would creep in.
Yeah. They can't figure him out.
They can't figure him out. And that psychological edge, I mean, that's just as important as any physical advantage.
Speaking of physical advantages, let's not forget about Jones's, natural gifts.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the guy is, like, a freak athlete.
Freak
I mean,
athlete.
that 84-inch reach,
Yeah.
the speed, the power, it's like almost unfair.
Right. It's like he was built in a lab specifically for MMA.
Right.
You know, that reach allowed him to control the distance, keep opponents at bay, and then when he decided to close the gap, he had that explosive power to end the fight quickly. And it wasn't just raw strength either.
Now, you rarely saw him, like, muscle his way through fights. He had this, like, incredible fluidity.
Yeah.
Almost like a dancer in the octagon. Like, he moved in ways that, like, defied his size, made him incredibly elusive and hard to hit. You couldn't get a clean shot on him if your life depended on it.
And that brings us to another, crucial aspect of his fighting style, his durability.
Oh, yeah.
Jones could take a punch. Like, he would get hit, and it was like he wouldn't even flinch.
Right.
He just kept coming forward, wearing his opponents down with that relentless pressure.
I mean, it's not just about having a granite chin, though, right? You don't reach the top of this sport without being able to absorb some punishment. But with Jones, it felt like it was more than just toughness. Like there was this mental fortitude there, this ability to push through pain, to stay laser focused, even when things got rough.
Absolutely. That mental toughness, that was just as important as his physical gifts. And it allowed him to overcome adversity, to bounce back from those setbacks, and to maintain that dominance for such a long time. And you really saw that mental strength, I think, when he faced those controversies outside the octagon.
Right. I mean, we can't talk about Jon Jones without addressing the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Those incidents, those controversies, they're part of his story, and they definitely had an impact on how people, view him, both as a fighter and as a person. It's a complex issue, and we need to delve into it.
It is complex. I mean, on the one hand, you have this athlete who achieved incredible things, pushing the boundaries of the sport. But on the other hand, you have these self-inflicted setbacks that cast a shadow over his achievements.
Yeah.
And it raises questions, right? About his character, about his legacy, about, how we judge athletes who make mistakes, especially when those mistakes happen outside the arena.
I mean, it's a reminder that even the most talented individuals are human. Right. They have flaws. They have vulnerabilities. Yeah. And for Jones, those flaws sometimes manifested in ways that had real consequences.
It's also a reminder of the intense pressure that comes with being, at the top of your game, like the constant scrutiny from the media and fans, the weight of expectations, the temptations that come with fame and fortune. It can be overwhelming. And for some athletes, it leads to poor decisions.
And for the fans, it can be such a roller coaster of emotions.
Oh, yeah.
You see this incredible talent, you're rooting for them, and then they make a mistake that jeopardizes everything they've worked for.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating, even heartbreaking. Like it makes you question their judgment, their commitment.
It tests your loyalty for sure. You start to wonder if you should still support them, if their actions outweigh their achievements.
Yeah.
It forces you to confront your own values, your own definition of what it means to be a champion.
Because, even with all the controversies, Jon Jones kept coming back.
He did.
He served his suspensions, he publicly addressed his issues, and he stepped back into the octagon. He didn't shy away from the spotlight, even when it was harsh. It's almost like he was determined to prove that he could overcome these challenges, that he could still be that dominant force he once was.
And that's where that resilience shines through once again, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a certain kind of mental strength to bounce back from a loss in the octagon, but to overcome personal demons, public scrutiny, the weight of your own mistakes, that requires a different level of fortitude.
There's a layer of complexity to his story that you don't often see, I think, in sports.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, did those setbacks fuel him in a way? Like he had something to prove, not just to the fans and his opponents, but to himself.
It's certainly possible. We saw a renewed focus in his fights after those comebacks, There was a fire in his eyes, a determination to reclaim his place at the top. And more often than not, he did just that. He came back stronger, more refined, and even more dangerous.
So as we're navigating this deep dive into the career of Jon Jones, we're left with a picture that's far from black and white.
Yeah.
He's a fighter of immense talent, a champion who dominated his division for years. But also, an individual who's made some serious missteps outside the cage.
Yeah, it's a story that defies easy categorization.
Right.
We're talking about a career filled with triumphs and setbacks, moments of brilliance and moments of controversy.
Yeah.
It's the story of a man who pushed the limits of both his physical abilities and his personal boundaries.
And at the end of the day, we're left with more questions than answers.
Yeah, it really does make you think. When we talk about Jon Jones's legacy, can we separate the athlete from the person? Like how much weight should those personal choices carry when we're, trying to figure out where he stands in MMA history? Yeah, I think it's a debate that's going to rage on, among fans and analysts alike. Like, is Jon Jones the greatest of all time?
Yeah.
The GOAT. I mean, his accomplishments inside the octagon are undeniable.
Right.
But can we overlook the controversies, the missteps that have tarnished his reputation?
It's almost like there are two Jon Jones, right? There's the dominant fighter who seems invincible inside the octagon.
Yeah.
And then there's the flawed individual who's made some, questionable choices, outside of it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how his legacy will ultimately be shaped. Will he be remembered primarily for his athletic achievements, for revolutionizing fighting styles, for those stunning victories against all odds, or will the narrative be dominated by those moments of poor judgment, those incidents that cast a shadow over his career?
And how much does that matter to Jon Jones himself? Do you think he cares about public perception, or is he solely focused on his performance, on cementing his place as the best to ever do it?
That's a question only he can answer, but I think it's safe to say that he's aware of the controversies, of the impact they've had on his career, on his image, and whether he chooses to address them directly or to let his actions speak for themselves, it's a narrative that he can't entirely escape.
Yeah, we often talk about, athletes as role models, but Jon Jones's story is kind of a reminder that they're human, just like the rest of us. They make mistakes, they face challenges, they have flaws. And sometimes those flaws are magnified because of their platform, because of their visibility.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale in a way. It reminds us that success doesn't make you immune to life's complexities, to the temptations and pitfalls that can derail even the most promising careers.
But it's also a story of resilience,
Yeah.
Of second chances.
Absolutely.
I mean, despite those setbacks, Jon Jones kept coming
Yeah.
back, kept fighting, kept pushing the boundaries of what's possible inside the octagon. And that in itself is pretty remarkable.
It really is. It speaks to a certain level of dedication, of passion for the sport. He could have walked away. He could have let those controversies define him,
Right.
but he didn't. He chose to keep fighting, to
Yeah.
keep proving himself, to keep striving for greatness.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating and complex career of Jon Jones, we're left with, I think, a sense of awe at his accomplishments, but also, a sense of unease about his missteps. It's a story that's both, inspiring and cautionary, a reminder that greatness and flaws can coexist in even the most talented individual.
And ultimately, it's a story that's still being written. Jon Jones is the reigning heavyweight champion. He's still in his prime.
Yeah.
And there are more chapters to be written, more challenges to conquer, more opportunities to define his legacy.
So what do you think, fight fans? How will Jon Jones be remembered? Will he be the undisputed GLB?
Yeah.
Or will those controversies forever overshadow his achievements? I mean, it's a question that's likely going to continue to be debated, for years to come.
And that's the beauty of it, right? Like, we get to watch this story unfold.
No.
We get to see how he navigates, this next chapter of his career. We get to witness the evolution of a fighter who's already left, an indelible mark on the sport.
One thing's for sure, Jon Bones Jones will keep us talking. He'll keep us analyzing. He'll keep us on the edge of our seats. I mean, that's the mark of a true legend, isn't it?
Yeah.
To leave a lasting impact, to spark conversations, to force us to confront the complexities of human nature, even within the realm of sports. So until next time, fight fans, keep those gloves up and those minds sharp.